Hey, it's Tom Goldstein, candidate for mayor in St. Paul. Appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the 2017 Twin Cities Digital Mayors Forum, and want to say thanks to all the organizations and individuals that helped bring this about, and glad to be able to speak to you today. So I want to talk a little bit about shared sustainable prosperity, obviously, but really make the point that my campaign from the start has really been about those things. Over the last 2 years, I've been talking about a number of issues about critical infrastructure, about how we lift people up, about how we ensure that all residents have access to educational opportunities, and as a former small businessman, how we support small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I've encapsulated all of that in what I call my Blueprint for a Better St. Paul, which is on the back of every piece of literature that we've had out for the last 6 months. So I, as a mayoral candidate, have broken it into sort of 5 categories: 21st century economy, livable neighborhoods, educational equity, government accountability, and safety net for all. And I'll try to talk about those things in the context of shared and sustainable prosperity. So the first thing I want to talk about is really about infrastructure and critical infrastructure, which I think goes to all the things: our parks and rec centers, our schools, our roads. And the way that we get around, transit, and having something like broadband as part of infrastructure so that we address the digital divide and everybody has affordable access, because I think that's key to growing business and creating the kind of 21st century jobs that we need in St. Paul that we've done little to advance in the last 12 years. But I want to start first with education, because that's where most of us start in life. I talk about my citywide commitment to education, which consists of a number of things. One is that we fund all-day pre-K. We fund after-school programming. We make sure there's a continuum of care during the day, so that kids in the morning and throughout the day have a place to be, that our school buildings and our rec centers, that we coordinate them so we can utilize them efficiently. Parents aren't scrambling to find places for their kids to be. But also that we have adult mentors, that we have partnerships for every school, sort of like the Hamlin to Hamlin Collaborative, where there are students in Hamlin throughout the day teaching, mentoring, serving as classroom aides, that we tap the volunteer potential in our community with businesses and nonprofits and the faith community and elected officials, that we all adopt a school. We're all involved in a school, so we're there tutoring, we're there mentoring, we're trying to provide a positive presence in kids' lives, but also a path for them to come see businesses, to be on college campuses, to see the jobs in nonprofits, to see career paths that many of us found through connections to relatives or friends or neighbors or our parents, that the kids that may not have parents in the home have those same opportunities, and so that they see their career path. Because in St. Paul, the quickest, and anywhere, the quickest way out of poverty and to prosperity is a job. And in St. Paul, we have not created jobs. In fact, we're down 12,000 jobs over the last decade or so. So name an industry that we've brought here. Brew pubs and coffee shops have become popular in St. Paul. Love them, but you can't build an economy around that. So what are we going to do to actually create jobs in St. Paul? I would argue that we need a broadband network as a starting point where everyone has access as an incentive to bring businesses here. But we also need to talk to businesses and entrepreneurs and ask them, what do you need to come to St. Paul besides, a big subsidy, which we can't afford? Is it better training with our workforces and aligning the educational opportunities? So, for example, we could create a whole class of solar techs that could get out, and we could lift up a solar industry right now in St. Paul and create a whole bunch of jobs that way. But it's more about technology. Let's attract tech firms here. We could build a broadband network and light it up tomorrow, a fiber network along the Green Line, and turn University Avenue into a tech corridor. We could do the same thing at the Midway if we weren't building a soccer stadium. We could do that at the Ford plant. And then if we had left the Ford plant intact, we might have a place that could be a distribution center for companies like Amazon, not on the level of a corporate headquarters, but something to replace the 1,800 jobs we've lost, because through all the rhetoric that everybody's talking about, other candidates, about all the great things they're going to do for St. Paul, the one thing they haven't explained is how they're going to create jobs. And we can't just subsidize housing and provide all these other things because we don't have enough resources. We need to lift people's incomes up, which means we do have to raise the minimum wage, and I would argue the target should be large corporations. I appreciate that Target has found that, is setting the path forward by promising to raise wages by 2020. I'm hoping all the other Fortune 500 companies here will do the same, and that we find a way to lift jobs eventually. But with small businesses, we may need to make sure that we don't exclude businesses from creating those jobs of tomorrow that will pay people $20, $30, $40, $50 an hour. And so we need to think strategically, and we need to think inclusively, where we aren't looking to just hit a home run with a large industry, but we're looking to make resources available to would-be entrepreneurs, for businesses to expand, for immigrants and refugees and minority communities to be able to get into business, which means we need the resources available to the city in terms of kind of a one-stop business shop where you can learn how to navigate the city, but also access to loan funds, whether it's a micro loan of $500 to $1,000 or a $10,000 or $100,000 development loan, so that you have the ability to get into the business, you have the ability to expand your business. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to be a billionaire, you don't have to know someone at City Hall, you're just someone with a good idea and a good plan, and the city can help you with that plan, but help you find a path to resources. We also need to be smart about the investments we make and the decisions that we don't pursue. For example, the Ford plant might have been repurposed as a distribution for Amazon or another company, or we could have co-located a number of businesses there that would have created the jobs for tomorrow. So we can't look at everything as just another venue for building housing with retail down below. That's not to minimize the importance of affordable housing, which is certainly part of shared prosperity. As a former organizer on affordable housing and someone who's worked on homelessness issues and helped formulate or help develop Lobby Days at the Hill, I understand what the issues are, and I know that we cannot build ourselves out of the affordable housing crisis. What we can do in the interim, as we're trying to subsidize affordable housing in key locations, is to actually look at providing subsidies so that people who can find housing but can't quite afford the rent, that based on need, we could actually subsidize that. Given that the average unit of affordable housing is about $150,000, you could provide $35,000 subsidies for every $150,000 unit we build. Now, depending on the way the federal government works and the way the tax subsidies work may not make that possible, but reprioritizing our resources as a city certainly makes that as something we could do, similar to the Section 8 federal program, but not with that stigma. So in terms of transit, we need to have the way for people to get to, for example, the Green Line. We need to have increased bus service, which works coordinating with the Met Council and other agencies. We need circulator buses from some of our senior high-rises, such as the Hamlin high-rise, where people don't have access to transit. The East Side is not served well by transit. And that gets to where affordable housing gets located. Do you want to locate it in neighborhoods where there is no transit, where people can't afford to shop, where the jobs are not there? Or do you want to have it nearby where you have access to freeways and the Green Line and the A-Line? And that gets to how we do business as a city and the accountability and transparency and actually having goals that we're going to follow through on. And the way I approach that is that we need a citywide scorecard where we're measuring a number of things, from policing to environmental sustainability to transit to equity, all across the board, so you actually see what the city's goals are, maybe modeled on the Portland plan, where you know what the goals are and you can track them. Politicians hate to be held accountable, and so we need something that will force them to be accountable. And I think a citywide scorecard is a start to that. Right now you go to the website in St. Paul and we're not measuring those things. And if you don't measure those kind of things, you're not going to get results. And that means having a comprehensive plan. It means talking to all the organizations like yours, talking to everyone in the community in a way that we're really listening and they have a seat at the table. We need a safety net for all so people don't fall through the cracks. So affordable housing is supportive housing that includes mental health services and job training. But it's really being intentional. It's really about changing the status quo so that St. Paul isn't just a city that works for well-connected people, isn't just a city that benefits developers and millionaires and billionaires, but it's a city where we do equity for everyone. And that means everyone needs to be able to participate. And we cannot continue business as usual in St. Paul. I believe I'm the best candidate who's going to change things. I'm independent. I am not a pawn of big business. I am not a pawn of police and fire. I am someone that is actually listening to people and working for the greater good. That's been my track record, investing in neighborhoods, working on sustainable and shared prosperity, and that's what I'll continue to do as mayor. So I appreciate this opportunity to try to present those ideas in a really comprehensive way. I hope you will find it informative and that you will not be shy about following up website, email, phone call. and I hope you have a great discussion once you get the chance to look at everybody's videos together. Thank you and have a great day.